Hey everyone, welcome back into TCO Studios in Eagan. It's Wobby here for another edition of the Pick Six. Thank you for submitting your questions. We hope you're enjoying our coverage of OTAs, and remember, the Vikings mandatory minicamp is coming up just around the corner as well. For now though, let's get to work and answer some of your questions. The first one comes from Jimmy in Prior Lake, Minnesota. What is your take on Gary Kubiak's influence on Kevin Stefanski and the offense? Yes, this 2019 Vikings offense, it is that man right there. It's Kevin Stefanski. He's the new offensive coordinator and the play caller. But there's no doubt that Gary Kubiak will have some influence on this Vikings offense. Now remember, Stefanski has been here since 2006. He's worked with guys like Brad Childress and Darrell Bevell and Norv Turner and Pat Shurmur. Lots of good influence on Kevin Stefanski. Now it's Gary Kubiak, who's very adept at getting the running game going and consequently getting the play-action passing game going. Another benefit for Kevin Stefanski of having Gary Kubiak on board is Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins knows Gary Kubiak's offense and some of the things that Gary Kubiak will want to implement into the offense. So some familiarity between the Vikings quarterback and Gary Kubiak. Question number 2 comes from Sievert in Norway. I haven't heard any updates on Mike Hughes. What's his status and will he be ready for training camp? Well, Mike Hughes is rehabbing the knee injury that shortened his rookie season. That rehab is on track. Head coach Mike Zimmer handles the updates, so we'll let him take it from there the next time he addresses reporters. In the meantime, though, a couple of things to watch on this Vikings roster as Mike Hughes continues his rehab. First, Mackenzie Alexander. He is the third corner for this Vikings defense, meaning he's going to be playing in the slot quite a bit as Mike Hughes continues that rehab. Mackenzie Alexander's development over his career has been steady, and now he's rounding into maybe his top form of his professional career. Secondarily, Mike Hughes helped the Vikings as a returner. So now there are going to be guys like those two guys, Amir Abdullah and Chad Beebe, who are going to have a chance to step up and compete for reps as a punt returner and or a kickoff returner. The next question comes from Marcus in Munich, Germany. Can our cornerback group step up again like they did in 2017? No doubt about it, they can. They were good in 2018 as well, as the Vikings had one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. No doubt about it, cornerback is a strength of this Vikings roster, even with guys like Mike Hughes recovering from a knee injury and Holton Hill, another talented corner on this Vikings defense, missing the first quarter of the season. The Vikings are still going to have a good cornerback group. A fun thing to watch in this group is going to be the development of some young guys like Chris Boyd and Craig James. Those guys, because of the injuries and the suspensions, are going to get more reps in practice and may have a shot to help this Vikings defense in regular season games. The next question comes from Benedict in Switzerland. A point of emphasis in the late rounds of the draft was special teams. What are your thoughts? How do they look at this point? Well, this is going to be a fun group to watch here during training camp in the preseason. That guy, Marwan Malouf, is the new special teams coordinator. So he's going to bring new ideas and new concepts, and we're going to see those firsthand during training camp. The one thing I really like about the special teams heading into 2019 is kicker Dan Bailey, punter Matt Weil, and long snapper Kevin McDermott all return from last year's team. That synergy is going to help that group. The next question comes from John in Virginia. Love the content you bring every week, but I sometimes feel you hold back on the answers from questions that we ask, and you're just a little too modest. Well, John, I definitely understand the feedback, but remember, we're in the middle of the off-season program. So folks want to know exactly the division of labor between Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison, but the coaches are still trying to figure that out themselves. So there is no answer to give you quite yet. Folks want to know who's going to win that right guard battle between Josh Klein and Drew Samia. Well, we haven't even put the pads on at OTAs or mandatory minicamp or training camp yet. We need to do that before we can figure out who's going to win that starting right guard job. Wide receiver 3 is going to be a fun competition to watch, but it's just too early to make the call. So we're not withholding any answers or opinions. We're just leaving all options on the table at this early stage. The final question comes from Bruce in El Paso, Texas. When does training camp start and where will it be located? How much for spectator tickets? Well, Bruce, if you want to check out Vikings training camp in 2019, you got to come right here to Eagan for the second consecutive season. The Vikings will have 2019 training camp at the Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center in Eagan. The debut of that was last year, and it was a smashing success. Folks, I encourage you to come to the Vikings' new practice facility and check out training camp. The dates for training camp have not yet been announced. Traditionally, though, training camp begins in the final week of July, and it continues through the middle part of August. I would anticipate similar dates this season. For more information on how you can come check out Vikings training camp, just go to Vikings.com. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Pick Six. We thank you for joining us, and we thank you, as always, for submitting your questions. The email address to do that, it's at the bottom of the screen. Use it. Send us your questions. Send us your opinions, and maybe we'll see you in next week's edition of the Pick Six.